I'm a girl with the Go Gators.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was just checking to see if you were listening.
From Destrehan, Louisiana. Hold on a second.
Hey, guys! Hey! I'm having a press conference, okay? Thank you.
Momentum, excitement, energy. They say all this stuff, and you know what they mean, but it doesn't describe what you mean. It's just sort of out there.
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
I was just worried about, listening to, all your guys' rap poison.
Welcome to Sideline Judgment. Here are your hosts, Sergio and Tyler.
Welcome to Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And today, Tyler, it's time, my friend. It is time. We thought last week
I'm like a giddy little schoolgirl. I'm so happy. I'm so excited.
Last week was just the appetizer. We are in the main course. It is week 1 of the college football season. We are recording this on Tuesday, August 29th, my mother's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom.
Oh, happy birthday.
And we are 2 days away from the start of the college football season. 1 day away, you, the listener, because this is going up on Wednesday the 30th. And the season kicks off on Thursday the 31st with our beloved Florida Gators taking on the Utah Utes. We will talk about that at the end of this episode. We will have what we are calling Florida Corner. But before that, we're going to make sure that we talk about this week's college football slate via our 5-wide and 2-point competition. We'll do a quick review of last week's 5-wide and 2-point, which was, kind of a wetting of the feet, Tyler. every point counts,
Oh, yeah.
Every point matters for the season-long competition, but it was a wetting of the feet for us to get back into things, warming up, one would say. And before that, Tyler, we'll start off like we typically do on Sideline Judgment with quick hits. A few stories from the week just to kind of, drive college football conversation. Jim Harbaugh has straight up just advocated for revenue sharing with student athletes, which is something that I thought was hilariously ironic and also, I think, kind of a revenge at the NCAA, because if those who don't know, Jim Harbaugh has been suspended for the first 3 games of Michigan's season for a self-imposed penalty via, I believe, Michigan, so they can avoid some NCAA brouhahas. But yeah, man, he just came out and said it. This is the direct quote that I pulled from the ESPN article. Apparently, Harbaugh went on like a 6-minute rant at a press conference earlier this week, and he says, quote, "We all should be about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm calling for a system that is fair, equitable, and benefits all involved. Don't exclude the student athletes from the profits. My opinion, you can't say you're about diversity, equity, and inclusion if you aren't willing to include the student athletes in revenue sharing," close quote. Tyler, he said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. I guess it is always like when any college football head coach is like, oh, we should do this progressive thing. I'm like, oh boy, like that came out of left field, because it's like the most reliably, consistently conservative group of people in not to be stereotypical,
Right.
but yeah, and we are not a betting podcast, but allegedly you could make some money betting on if a college football head coach would have conservative values.
Yes, allegedly.
But it is funny though, because this is another one of those things where I'm like, yeah, the NCAA is kind of just, they're just kind of, we're all for diversity and inclusion. What they're really for is to make money, and all of that. It's always the thing that I try to have everybody remember, is that a lot of these like big brands and organizations and things like that, they don't really care about progress, diversity, inclusion until it is deemed profitable.
Until it's financially beneficial for them to care about those things. Exactly. And that goes across industry.
Oh yeah.
Around the world. That's not just like a distinctly American ecosystem thing. Like, no, that's around the world. Money is what drives these moves. And so, yeah, I was just shocked that he came out and actually said
Me
it.
too.
But then I also realized the cojones for real. But I also realized, like, oh yeah, the only people that this would kind of like ruffle feathers with will be people in the NCAA, because like that's kind of what
already
they've been fighting.
Don't like him.
Exactly. So he's like, you know what, like what he did to get the self-imposed 3-game suspension, whatever it may be, it boils down to like very minute recruiting things. Like the fact that they had to go through a 3-game suspension to do it. I just really think this is him. It's kind of funny. Like I think his driving motivator here is revenge, but he's like accidentally like making a really good point. This isn't exactly like the worst person you know made a great point, because I don't think Jim Harbaugh is the worst person you know, but like it's
No.
definitely like someone that you didn't think was going to make this point made this point and did it perfectly and said the right things. You know what I mean? So that's
Yep.
for me kind of what I took from all of this, which is crazy. Moving forward, Michigan offensive coordinator Sharon Moore has been suspended for week 1 as part of self-imposed penalties from violating the NCAA rules at Michigan.
Look, I hate to, I've said it before, but self-imposed penalties is the most Michigan thing I've ever heard of.
It is
It's the most Michigan man thing I've ever heard of. Like, no,
I think
we put penalties on ourselves in this program.
Well, I think it's distinctly Michigan, not only because, yes, we are accountability and all of those things, but Tyler, I'm going to read you the opponents for Michigan's first 3 games, and that's this Saturday against East Carolina, next Saturday against UNLV, and the Saturday after that against Bowling Green, all of which take place at home at the Big House. So, yeah, I don't think having Harbaugh on the sidelines for those 3 games or not having their offensive coordinator, Sharon Moore, for this first game is going to be that much of an impact, if you ask me.
That's the thing. Full look behind the curtain. I like saw that and I was like, hey, you know, just for 2-point, like just for keeping things open, I'm gonna look at like what these Michigan's first 3 games are, just to see if I want to throw a little shade at Michigan, maybe get some 2 points somewhere. No, like I looked at it, I was like, oh, this not even worth it.
No, it's not even worth it. No. But I just felt like we had to say that is what happened. You know, an analyst will be elevated to fill more spot this Saturday, and that's per Jim Harbaugh speaking at that same crazy press conference. Something I didn't put in the rundown, Tyler, but I just now remembered, is also Arizona State has imposed a self-imposed, speaking of Michigan things to do, a self-imposed bowl ban for this postseason. And the way that it kind of came about was kind of crazy. Obviously, this is stemming back to the reason Herm Edwards was let go of Arizona State, the recruiting violations, the bringing people in during COVID, and not like during COVID, like, oh, you know, it's already passed kind of thing. Like, no, this was like June of 2020 when we really didn't know anything, and it's not so much of a should people be, you know, being in contact at the time or whatever, you know. It's more so of every other program in the country isn't seeing recruits, and you, Arizona State, are going out of your way to sneak in recruits in the back kind of thing. So that was a whole Herm Edwards situation that was going on there. But because of that, Arizona State, the athletic department, is trying to cover their behind and impose penalties before the NCAA penalizes them further. And as a consequence, this team at Arizona State, which their head coach, Kenny Dillingham, right, is his name? No, Kenny Dillingham. No. Yeah, Kenny Dillingham.
No. Yeah, I think it's Kenny Dillingham.
Well, if it's not, I apologize. But the Arizona State head coach was very much like, yeah, man, this sucks. I found out at 6:30 in the morning today. I had to tell the team at 8 in the morning, and here we are at 10 o'clock in the morning practicing. Like, no, none of us are happy. The seniors, their entire goal was, let's make a bowl game and turn this for Arizona State. And I kind of agree with Kenny Dillingham, because it's like, I feel bad for those players that very clearly didn't do the crime but are being punished for it now after the fact, despite the fact that the person who committed those infractions is no longer there. You know what I mean? I understand it from an athletic director's point of view, but like in an athletic department point of view, but like, man, that sucks for those players, and good on Kenny Dillingham for saying that out loud. You know what I mean?
I do too. I agree. It really sucks. Like, but that's also, unfortunately, just to play a little bit of a devil's advocate situation here, because it does suck. That I'm not even going to argue about. The unfortunate thing about college football, though, is that it is a sport made to be in transition. Like,
always,
it's just very hard to punish people once they're out of it, and then you end up punishing the program, and you're punishing a bunch of people that it's not their fault. But this, unfortunately, and this is the thing that sucks, and it really doesn't. I'm glad Kenny Dillingham is standing up for it, because it doesn't necessarily need to be this bad, in my opinion. But it's one of those unfortunate like things in the DNA of college football is programs getting punished for things that the people getting punished for things that the people before them did.
Right, exactly.
Like,
It's almost like you're being punished just because you wear that uniform. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So unfortunate. I feel bad for them. Someone else I feel bad for is Nebraska tight end Arik Gilbert. He was arrested, what we now know as late last night, early this morning, I should say, in Lincoln. He was carrying a bag out of a liquor and vape store, and reportedly just before 2 a.m, police found the glass door shattered, and Gilbert was found with over $1,600 worth of stolen items, including different vape products. And the damages estimated for the store were set at $650. Now, if Arik Gilbert is a name that you find familiar, it's probably because you know him as the number 6 overall player in the class of 2020. He's a former LSU, Florida, and Georgia player, transferred to Nebraska in January and is currently waiting for his waiver from the NCAA to play this season. And that's because he already used his one-time transfer exemption that is given to you by the NCAA. And Tyler, I say I feel bad for him because, peek behind the curtain, we were having some technical difficulties before we started recording. And while I was waiting for Tyler to fix a couple issues, I was on Instagram, and 247 put out an Instagram post, which is the split screen. The first half is what Matt Rule said talking about him, and the bottom half is the security footage from the essential burglary and suspected burglary, or alleged burglary. And hey, man, I don't listen. As someone who has previously dealt with some pretty bad mental health issues, as someone who is very much an advocate and someone who believes that we need to kind of take better care of our mental health and who tries to live his life that way, I don't want to assume, but like just looking at him in that video, he clearly needs some help, man. Like he doesn't look healthy. And I feel bad for the guy. And this is his 4th program in 3 years. And the way that Matt Rule was speaking about it, and he was like, we think that we have the right environment for him to get better as a person and then in turn succeed on the football field. And I just feel bad for the guy. And I also think that it's, I think we had talked about this off the air or maybe we talked about it on the air. I don't know. We were like, there's a coach that you kind of want your kid to play underneath. And I think I said to you, Matt Rule was one of the people that I kind of would want my kid to play for. And just the way that you could tell he actually cares about Arik Gilbert, the person, and not Arik Gilbert, the freakish tight end that can help me win football games, I think is something that is going to go understated in this whole situation, but I think is very important. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and that's in this kind of situation, the football comes second. We're just really hoping that this young man gets the help that he actually needs to
absolutely
to figure himself and his own life out before even thinking about football. It's unfortunate, but just another showcase of the mental health struggles that we have, and not just in this country but in the world, and things we need to do to address them.
Of course, yeah. So I hope Gilbert, gets the help that he needs. And it was nice to see Matt Rule, the figurehead of a legacy college football brand like Nebraska, and he's being tasked with bringing that quote unquote sleeping giant back to prominence. It's nice to see that he's caring about the people in there and not just the football players. You know what I mean? Which is nice to see.
Yeah.
Last bit of quick hits, then we'll get to last week's 5 Wide. Hurricane Idalia is altering the travel plans for our beloved University of Florida Gators. They opened the season at Utah on Thursday. They were scheduled to travel to Salt Lake City on Wednesday directly from Gainesville to spend a day there, get a little bit acclimated to the altitude as much as you can, because 24 hours, 36 hours isn't going to be as much, but whatever. Now they have pivoted because of the hurricane path that is going to expect it to enter via the Tampa area and literally across Gainesville and across North Florida. They are traveling to Dallas.
Just got upgraded to Category 2, by the way.
Up to 2. It's expected to get to 3, which as 2 Floridians on a podcast, we start taking them seriously. Yeah, that's when we got to start taking them seriously. Exactly.
I'm not worried about it. It can ground planes, so I understand why they're changing their travel plans.
Of course. Yeah. So they traveled to Dallas today on Tuesday the 29th, spending the night in Dallas. We'll travel to Salt Lake City on Wednesday, and then they'll come back as normal and stuff. So anyone in that Central Florida area, your family, Tyler, it's Jacksonville's on the outside. It should be less weak by the time it hits your family because
Jacksonville, weirdly, the city of Jacksonville has weirdly been really lucky in regards to hurricanes these past like 5-10 years,
Mhm.
because either they're coming up from the Gulf and they cross the state and severely weakened by the time they get to Jacksonville, or they just have not been hitting Jacksonville on the East Coast, on
Yeah.
the eastern side of it. So
Yeah. I feel bad for that west coast of the state because
Yeah.
last year they had that brutal hurricane that really
remember
caused some
that.
issues and people are still recovering from. So I just hope everyone gets safe and all that stuff, is there's not as much damage and casualties and stuff like that. So all right, Tyler, that's it for the news. That's it for quick hits. Quickly review 5 wide and 2 point because I'd like to spend most of our time talking about this week's games. We'll start off number 13 Notre Dame 42, Navy 3. This game took place in Ireland. Tyler and I both picked Notre Dame. We both get the points on that one. Did you have any thoughts on this game? How much of this game did you watch? No.
No.
So I have a short story about this game. I watched maybe about a half an hour of this game. I had a friend event that I had to go to, and so I watched about a half hour. But the half hour I watched, I spent very agitated because they were doing this whole thing about Sam Hartman and how he transferred from Wake Forest to Notre Dame. And the broadcaster told this story, Tyler, where they were like, yeah, Sam Hartman, he was planning on going to the NFL and all that last year and stuff. And, he had his health issue and stuff. And then he came back and he looked really good. And he was training for pro day. He was training for the combine in like, December or whatever. And then kind of his brother heard, he was like, oh yeah, I guess he heard like a report where it was like, someone at the university, his brother, I guess, was like in Gainesville or something. He was like, yeah, someone at the University of Florida was like, oh, your brother's Sam Hartman? Yeah. We would love to have him here to be our quarterback if he's going to transfer anywhere. And he was like, oh, okay. So he told that to his brother. And apparently hearing the story ignited this fire underneath Sam Hartman. And that's why he trained and wanted to go. And now he ended up at Notre Dame and transferred. And I was like, so you mean to tell me you told that whole story, broadcaster, about how Florida needed Sam Hartman at quarterback, all to end up with, and that's how he got to Notre Dame? Good.
It's like specifically designed to piss you off.
Yes, I am watching a Notre Dame game, and in the Notre Dame game, they tell me how the quarterback that the entire offseason I have spent being like, I would like Sam Hartman, please. If not, I would like Grayson McCall, but I would like Sam Hartman, please. And just poo-pooing on me because I couldn't get the quarterback that I wanted, and now I have to deal with Graham Mertz.
All right, it's okay. All right,
it's always Notre Dame or Notre Dame adjacents.
Yeah. All roads lead back to Notre Dame.
Oh my god! Unfortunately, alrighty. Anyway, we both get the points on that one. Jacksonville State 17, UTEP 14. I got the point on that one. Tyler picked UTEP. I picked Jacksonville State. Very proud of my pick. You were betrayed. You were betrayed. San Diego State 20, Ohio 13. We both picked San Diego State. Vanderbilt 35, Hawaii 28. We both picked Vandy. We both got the points there. I wasn't able to catch any of this game, but I did hear that it was much more competitive than people thought. And I was like, oh, I do like to hear that. So,
yeah.
And then the last one, USC 56, San Jose State 28. We both get the points on that one. Y'all let San Jose State score 28 points.
And it wasn't like a back half 28 points.
No. Alex Grinch is gonna Alex Grinch, huh, boys?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
That's something to monitor. Something to monitor.
Something to keep an eye on. And then on our 2 points, Tyler picked New Mexico State to beat UMass, and unfortunately for him, fortunately for me, he was wrong. UMass 41, New Mexico State 31. And I picked Louisiana Tech 22 to beat, Louisiana Tech to beat FIU, which they did by a score of 22-17. I get 2 points on that one. Picking against FIU has never gone wrong for me. So glad I can keep that
going back
intact.
to the well. Going back
to the well, baby. Going back to the well. Our score to date heading into this week 1, where we will spend the majority of this episode conversing. I have 7 points. Tyler has 4 points. Ladies and gentlemen, stop the count. Season's over. I've officially won the 2.5.
It's done. It's over.
Alrighty. Tyler, let's get into it. Let's talk about this week in college football. If you're new here, welcome. We have picked 5 games where we will be talking about these games in depth, and then we will each pick a 2-point game That will give us 2 points if we select correctly. We pick the same 5 wide games, Tyler and I. The 2-point games differ, and we alternate weeks on who gets first choice and first dibs. We know the 5 games that we're going to talk about. They are on the rundown, but there are 2 empty spaces where it says 2 points. Sergio blank, Tyler blank. We will be finding out our 2 points live here on the air as we converse. And then after that, we will be talking about the Florida and Utah game in our episode ending segment, Florida Corner. We will not choose any. Florida will never be in the 5 wide or 2 point because we are Florida fans. And of course, we just want them to win every single game. And so we don't think that that's kind of just. We're going to talk about the Gators anyway. We might as well use those other 7 spots to talk about other games. So, Tyler, we begin with a game that has been advertised for at least 2 months, at least over here on my television. I don't know why they've been. Well, let me rephrase that. I know why they've been hyping it up as much as they have been. I just don't agree with the amount of hype that they've been giving. And that is Deion Sanders' debut as Colorado's head coach. He is traveling to Fort Worth to take on the number 17th ranked TCU Horned Frogs, the team that appeared in the national championship game last year, and that's all we'll say about that. That game kicks off at 12 o'clock Eastern time on Fox, Big Fox, linear television. Tyler, you are picking first this week on 5 wide.
Correct.
Let's talk about the game and then give me your pick.
I want to be very clear. Something to remember about TCU, as much as they played in the national championship last year, is that they lost a lot. They lost a lot. They've still got. They lost their offensive coordinator, replaced him with Bryles. Not
Bryles.
Bryles.
One of the Bryles. I hope not.
It's not the Bryles.
Okay.
But it's Bryles. With, I believe, Kendall Bryles.
Yes, Kendall Bryles. Former Florida State offensive coordinator, former Arkansas offensive coordinator. Former FAU offensive coordinator, I believe, as well. Yes.
Who I believe is, I think his style is better suited for this conference and for what TCU. But, it's a thing. It was like TCU, I think, definitely overperformed based off expectations. No one can deny that last year. However, it was always been a good roster, and it's going to continue to be so. I think the intrigue in this game for me is for both teams is one. As with every game, you want to find out what this team is this year. For TCU, I think I kind of know what that's going to be. Mm-hmm. They won't be as good as last season. It's just you can't have that much turnover in a program without championship depth and be as good, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They lost 2 games last year, and one of them was in the national title game.
Yeah, and so it's one of those I still think this will be like a 7-8 win team, but we're gonna see what the variance is in that. I'm fascinated to watch Colorado, and I gotta be honest, this does scream. It has the blueprint of a game for the most part. You go into it, everybody's like, well, we're gonna watch it, but TCU's gonna win, and then we don't see it coming, and Colorado brings it out and wins, and TCU, that team that got so close to the mountain last year, and you're like, oh, what are they? They are not as good this year. This happens all the time at all the levels of football. I don't think it's going to happen here because Colorado was bad. I actually I don't not believe in Deion Sanders as a coach. Deion Sanders winning as a head football coach at this level is going to require the Urban Meyer effect style of it's really about getting, and Deion Sanders knows football, but it's really going to be about getting the recruits, building the infrastructure, the culture, things like that. And right now it's just I don't really care, in my opinion. How far they think that's come. I don't think it'll be enough for this one game. I'm going to take TCU. There's a world where I could see Colorado shocking us all. I don't think it's out of the possibility, but I wouldn't bet on it. So
I do think it's out of the possibility. And this, again, I nothing against Deion. I personally think that Deion Sanders, in the long run, and by long run, I mean maybe starting next year. I don't mean this is a 4 or 5 year project, because Deion is Deion and he can get better players to a program like Colorado much quicker than another coach could in the past. I think this will be a next year thing. Over half of this Colorado roster is brand new. between
The
incoming
turnover
freshmen,
is insane. Like
an insane amount of transfers in and out. Like it was reported somewhere up to like somewhere in the 70s of like new players on the team. I don't know if that's the exact amount, but like for a program that holds only like what 90 scholarship players, like that's an insane amount of turnover. So on the Colorado side, this isn't an anti Dion pick. This is more a I just don't think that those amount of immediate results are going to be able to be had this quickly. Next season, completely different story. I can see next season being an 8 to 10 win season for Colorado. This is a this year analysis, and I'm not anti Dion by any means. It's just going to take some time, and I just need people to realize that it's going to take some time. Tyler, I do want to play the game with Colorado with you because I think that this is a big deal.
Okay.
Because I have been amongst friend circles and amongst peers of mine as well. I have said, like, if Colorado can win 6 games, if Colorado can make a bowl, give Deion Sanders Coach of the Year. Like, I think if he does that with this roster and this situation, it's an insane thing to do. So let's play the game really quickly, just so we can get in there.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you what I think about TCU, even though I am picking TCU for this game. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I think about them. So obviously, TCU, we both think they're going to lose this week, 0-1. Honestly, one of the games that I am most excited about in this early college football season, because we're talking Colorado hosting Nebraska at noon on Big Fox next Saturday on the 9th of September. And that to me is incredible because this is 2 teams that used to be in the Big 8 in the Legacy Conference. Nebraska famously left the Big 12 for the Big 10, and then Colorado left the Big 12 for the Pac-12. And now they're both in different conferences, but it's like a traditional Big 12 game when both teams are now in separate conferences. This is an older rivalry. Reminds me of like the Nebraska-Oklahoma games from the last couple seasons. Like, I'm excited for this game just purely from a college football history perspective. So I personally am going to give them an L because I think Matt Rule in a rebuild is proven now at Temple and Baylor. And I think that he will have them in a better shape. Also, that Nebraska roster wasn't as bad as the Colorado roster.
No,
like Nebraska had some players there. So Matt Rule's walking in with more immediately. So I'm going to go 1-1. Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay. But this is definitely a game that I think will end up on 5 wide next week. Just want to point that out. I'm excited for that game. Then they host Colorado State. They don't host them. It's a neutral site game, but that is a late. Oh, Tyler, Colorado State, 10 o'clock kickoff on ESPN on the 16th. A late game, baby. I love that for the East Coast.
7 p.m. for me.
7 p.m. for you, baby. Colorado State. Who do you got?
I'm going to be nice. I'm going to give it to Colorado.
I also will give it to Colorado. I think they win that game, and I think it's a very important game for him to win, given the state he's in. These next 2 games are going to be losses. It's at Oregon and USC at home.
Yeah,
so we'll just boom. All right, so that is 1-4 through the month of September. Want to emphasize 1-4 through the month of September. At Arizona State.
I'm going to give it to him. Arizona State was bad last year.
Me too.
Yeah, and now all the wind just got taken out of the sails.
Exactly. I agree.
So 2-4.
All right, 2-4. Stanford at home.
That's an L for me.
That's a W for me.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
That's a dub for me. I think. Well, I think this is a 3 to 4 win team, and I'm looking at the schedule, and I just don't see 2 more wins after that. So for me, I'll give it to them. That's what that is. 3-4. 3-4.
It's looking up.
Then they got a bye week, and then they go
back wins.
2 UCLA.
Yikes.
On the road.
Yikes.
That's an L. We both know that's an L. 3-5. Oregon State at home. This is a Beavers podcast. This is a Beavers podcast.
This is a Beavers podcast.
Come on. Of course, you know this. 3, 4, 5. So that's 3-6.
3-6.
Arizona at home. I'm going to give that to them. Arizona was pretty bad too.
Okay. 4-6.
So 4-6, and then at Washington State and at Utah.
No,
Both losses, in my opinion.
both losses.
All right.
So
4-8.
4-8. That's not bad, actually.
I think that's a good season for Colorado. Truly
Me too.
believe that. Good season for Colorado. All right. I'm glad we played that game because I just wanted to put on record my takes and beliefs on Colorado.
expectations for
Yes,
Colorado.
I want people to know that.
Wanna-
And then with TCU in this game quickly, because I picked them as well. But I agree with you. There's going to be a lot of turnover. I'm very curious this season for TCU. They won a lot of one-score games last year. They were really good in that, oh my God, they're going to lose, they're going to
They were
lose, they're going to
great
lose.
in tight
They actually
games.
win. They were really good in tight games. Are they able to maintain that hit rate? I'm not so sure. It's very hard to do. And they had really good players last year. So I don't know. That's going to be the thing that I watch the most. How does TCU look with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, whether they're up by 2 points or they're down by 3? You know what I mean? Like, what do they do there? So that's my big interest for this game and then moving forward. We got Boise State heading to Seattle to take on the number 10th ranked Washington Huskies. It's a 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific kickoff time on ABC. I pick first here. Listen, man, this is going to be the Michael Penix for Heisman opening chapter campaign. And I think that
this.
I think that they know that as well. They're going to be like, oh, listen, we need to like establish this, and beating a respectable brand like Boise State, where it's okay, you should be beating Boise State on an every year basis if you play them every year because you are a better program than them. But it's not like Boise State is a cupcake, bottom tier G5 borderline FCS program. They're a good team, and we expect Boise to be good this year as well. So I think that a good big win here is going to boost Washington's like resume when we get towards the end of the season, when we talk playoffs. And I think it's going to help out with the Michael Penix Heisman campaign that I personally am all in on. So I got Washington in this game.
All right. I'm the same. Michael Penix Jr. for Heisman. That I don't have anything to say on this. That you haven't already said. I'm super excited. They were super fun to watch last year, and most of the team is returning. So like I'm not expecting a playoff push. Like I'm not expecting a playoff run. I'm expecting a playoff push. If that makes sense. Like I expect them to be in the thick of it. Like I can't wait for that Oregon Washington game. That's the level of expectation I've got going on. But I can't wait to see Michael Penix Jr. ball out.
And I think that that's a big deal. I'm very curious to see where Washington appears in the first college football playoff rankings, because I think depending on where they start, we always say this, the committee is always giving us, they're kind of telling us when they release those initial rankings, like what their thinking is, not what should be, but what will be, like what their thinking is. And I think the fact that they're ranked 10th to start the season with the AP poll is kind of people saying, okay, it might be time for Michael Penix to dominate the national headlines. You know what I mean? So I'm excited for that. Next up, Tyler, a big game in my opinion. UTSA taking on Houston, 7:00 Eastern kickoff on FS1. This is a massive game. UTSA is going from Conference USA up to the American. They're expected to compete for the American title this year, and Houston is making that jump from the American to the Big 12. The game is in Houston, and UTSA is a program that does not back down for anyone. And I personally think if you were to put these two teams' blind resumes in front of me from 2022 and tell me one of these teams is in the American, one of these teams is in the Big 12, which do you think is like the bigger power, bigger program? I probably would have told you UTSA on a blind resume test. Houston hasn't been doing as well lately, which is kind of underwhelming because Dana Holgorsen, his whole thing was he left West Virginia in the Big 12 to Houston, who was in the American at the time, to be that kind of big coach that brought them up. And it's been very up and down. They dealt with the whole De'Aaron King situation and the red shirts. They had issues with COVID and getting people eligible. It's been very hectic for Houston these past 4 or 5 years. They're thinking that this is a clean slate moving into the Big 12, but then they give themselves arguably the worst non-conference opponent to start the season. Tyler, you get to pick first. What do you think of this game? Who do you got?
This is a tough one. This is one of the closest ones that we're going to go up against, in my opinion. In regards to like the next 3 games are all very interesting to me. But I think this is probably this is probably the closest. Houston is replacing Clayton Tune as their quarterback, whereas UTSA
Consistency.
still has Frank Harris as their quarterback. Still has number 0. He was very excellent for them last year. He's a senior this year. Last year he had over 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
Pretty good.
Clayton Tune did a lot for Houston as well, and it's Dana Holgorsen, so they're going to be step up. I don't think the gap is so big that the Roadrunners could not overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with UTSA.
You know,
I'm gonna swing for it.
I want to pick them because I think that they can do it. No, we're week 1. I don't have to like pick opposite you just to kind of position myself.
You gotta do what makes you tremble,
No,
Sergio. You gotta do what makes you tremble.
I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't pick the team that started off at Conference USA, built themselves up, and are now going to be believed to be one of the front runners in the American.
It would be pretty against your brand.
It would be against my brand, like significantly. I will also take the Roadrunners. Meep, maybe.
Meep. Let's do it.
I also need to build up UTSA so that when FAU beats them later in the season, it's a much better win.
Oh, it's all a long game. It's all for the con.
Who do you think you're talking to? Who do you think you're talking to over here? Next up, we have the Carolina Bowl, number 21 ranked North Carolina Tar Heels taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks. This game is in Charlotte. This game is at the Bank of America Stadium. It is at 7:30 Eastern kickoff time on ABC. Pretty good slate there. You can go Boise State, Washington at 3:30. Not even change the channel, and you get the Carolina Bowl. Love to see that. Pretty good. I go first on this one. So North Carolina is replacing their offensive coordinator Phil Longo. He left to go join Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. That's a completely different conversation for another day about what Wisconsin's doing with a borderline air raid coordinator, but that's another conversation for another day. And South Carolina, man, we talked about them in our conference preview episode. We really like them this year. The consistency that they have with Spencer Rattler, quarterback. This is going to be a fun game to watch. Two of the 10 best college quarterbacks right now across the country to be battling it out. I think this is going to be a case of the younger Shane Beamer getting the better of the older Mike Brown for coaching wise. I'm going to go with the Gamecocks.
Really?
I really do. I like North Carolina this season, but I like them relative to the ACC. And this is not like SEC over the ACC thing.
Well,
no. I like what Shane Beamer's doing at South Carolina, and I think this is a program that's trending up versus a program that I don't think it's trending down because they have Drake May, but definitely plateauing and not living up to the expectations they set beforehand.
So this is a situation where I was fully expecting you to pick North Carolina, and I was building myself. As the favorite, I was prepared for the first person picking this one to pick the favorite, which is a slim margin, North Carolina. But yeah. I really agree with your analysis a lot that it's South Carolina. The coaching for South Carolina, I think, is more in the rise and better, and there's a little bit more excitement there. Whereas North Carolina has a good roster, and Mac Brown's fine, but Drake
love
May
Mac Brown, still a good coach.
Yeah,
love Mac Brown.
Drake May is the real pull there. I'm torn now because I want to pick separate from you for fun. But I don't know if I kind of believe that South Carolina is going to win.
I think you should. I think we're so early in the season that you should just go with who you think is winning.
I think South Carolina's going to win. So
that was my mentality. Yeah.
I'm going to stick with that.
I think they will as well. Wow, man, this is interesting because this can really set the direction of both programs. You know what I mean?
Very much so. This thing is like they got to really Drake May wasn't eligible for the draft last year, so
he will be after this season. Yeah, and he's probably going to go.
I don't think this will affect his draft stock really in any way. I think he's going to have a good season, but this is going to be a big stepping stone for South Carolina for whatever they want to accomplish this season. I am a very commonly it is a known thing about me that I am not a Spencer Rattler believer. But this can still be a really good college football team, and he can have a really good season.
Are you not a Spencer Rattler believer with your draft goggles on?
Yes.
Or okay.
I should more clarify, because a lot of people look at and I even have this problem. It's just like, oh, productive college quarterback must be a good draft prospect.
Exactly.
I would not hitch my wagon to Spencer Rattler, but for what South Carolina needs him to be, he can be that. And he was. South Carolina had a weirdly up and down season last year. It was generally a good season, but they had some really strange losses. Like, to be honest, the Florida loss, like,
they should not have lost. They should not have lost.
Should not have happened, but that way. But then they also had wins that didn't make a lot of sense. And it's just, that was the up and down. So a little bit more consistency this season. I think they could be better.
I agree. And to just wrap up on this game, on the other side, we talked about Drake May, Mac Brown, maybe coaching wise, kind of plateauing in a bit. The biggest thing, in my opinion, is Gene Chizik is still the defensive coordinator in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And that defense was not good last year. Last year, the opening game with North Carolina and App, and we were like, oh my God, this is going to be great, whatever. And App almost won the game, and we were thinking, oh my God. And then App went in and beat Texas A&M, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. App is going to be incredible. And then they kind of had like a mediocre season by their standards. I think that that whole thing happened, and we didn't really realize that, oh man, North Carolina's defense is like capital B bad. And they haven't really made any changes that lead me to believe that they're going to be drastically and dramatically better, especially enough when you're going up against, and I agree with you, I'm not the biggest Spencer Rattler guy in terms of NFL prospects. I wouldn't be happy if the Dolphins took him to back up Tua in that way. You know what I mean? But collegiately, that cannon of an arm is going to go. And when he's going up against a defense like North Carolina's, he can dissect them. He can look so much better than what he actually is in a game like this. And so for that reason, I think that picking South Carolina and all that stuff. So that's why I'm going there. Last one on five wide, Tyler. The number 5 ranked LSU Tigers taking on the number 8 ranked Florida State Seminoles. That is a 7:30 Eastern kickoff on ABC on Sunday night. This is your annual Sunday night Labor Day weekend kickoff weekend game, and I am pumped. This game was played last year, and it was played at the Superdome, which famously Florida State walked away with a win with on some crazy kicking philosophies. The return game is in Orlando. It's at Camping World Stadium. I think it should be good to go given the hurricane. I haven't heard anything about that in terms of them moving it or anything.
I haven't heard anything at all.
So I'm just going to assume they're going with it. But this is definitely the biggest game of the weekend. And if you're new around here, we do our 5 wide and 2 point in chronological order. So the night games will always be at the end. The noon games will always be at the beginning. LSU FSU, Tyler, you go first. Who do you got?
So we kind of talked about this a little bit in the last season in regards to our way too early top 25. So we both like believe in these two teams. You were a little bit of a higher believer in FSU than me. I think FSU is going to be really good this year. I'm not sure if I'm really like playoff ready yet for them. My biggest thing is that FSU specifically, but also just Mike Norvell teams in general, have shown propensity to me to not start off strong.
Within a game or within a season?
Within a season. I was like FSU was really good. Like FSU ended last season very good. Very well. Very good. Which I think is making everybody be like, oh, they were okay for like a lot of the early parts of the season. I mean, and they won that LSU game. But again, at the time, it was like both those teams ended up being high win teams. At the time, LSU was not playing well either. And it's one of those things where, like, I do believe that there's a cap on what LSU can be with Brian Kelly. But I think the floor of even within its own season, I say that, and Brian Kelly's had like multiple 4-win seasons as a head coach.
But to his credit, those 4-win seasons have been catalysts for change.
Yes.
And he has gotten better from those 4-win seasons.
So the point being that it's just like, in the spectrum of what these teams can be, LSU has a smaller spectrum with I don't see them as explosive. I think they have a lower ceiling than FSU if FSU is truly as good as they possibly can be. But they have a much higher floor to me. And FSU, I think, will be good, will have explosive season. But I could just see them really starting off slow. So I'm gonna go with LSU
Okay.
for this game. I could see either team winning this game. And
I'll be up
but
I'll be up front with you. Before you said that, I was still going to go with Florida State. So we are on separate sides here. I can't believe that we're watching this game on this game between two teams that are going to beat Florida this year. Hate to say it, but it's true.
hate to say it.
Listen, man, I'm going with Florida State because I do believe that it's important. I agree with you with the whole Mike Norvell and his teams maybe not starting off the best and them incrementally getting better as the season goes on, which to me is a good quality as a coach.
Yeah, no, it's a positive. And hey, maybe like they haven't been as good. Florida State hasn't been as good as they were last season. Maybe that's their starting point this season, and they'll get even better. I don't know. Like,
and I am inclined to believe that because they have, and I've said this 15,000 times, both on this podcast and on places that I've been guests on over the offseason. Florida State is returning the most production out of any team in the entire country. That sometimes is a bad thing because if you go 0-12 and you return everyone from an 0-12 team, you're not going to go well. But Florida State went 10-2 last year. Florida State had a breakout season last year, and they're returning 90-something% of that team, including the most important positions at the offensive line and Jordan Travis as their signal caller. So for me, I am inclined to believe that, Tyler, that their starting point is where they ended last year, and they can either only get better or they can maintain themselves. Now, where I am a bit nervous for this specific game is that I actually really liked what Jaden Daniels did within that LSU and Brian Kelly system last year. And I was rewatching the LSU Alabama game from last year a few days ago while I was working. It was on ESPNU. And there's some things that Jaden Daniels can do. And it reminded me as to why I liked him so much when he was at Arizona State. Remember that? When he was at Arizona State and I was all in on that man?
Yeah.
I see it now. And Brian Kelly is getting the most out of him. Now, the question marks with LSU, I agree with you. I think LSU has a higher floor than Florida State, in my opinion. But Florida State has a higher ceiling. I think the fact that this game is in Orlando, I think the fact that this game is between two teams that met last year, and Florida State was the one that got the win on the road, and it led to that fantastic, the best Florida State season we've had since Jimbo won a national title with them close to a decade ago. Mm-hmm. I think that that's going to kind of all pile on top of itself. And if I am truly a believer in terms of what FSU can do this season, then I think in order for my season-long take for FSU to come true, they have to win this football game. Yeah. And so for those reasons, this is putting all my eggs in one basket. I will take Florida State. Now, excuse me while I go barf for all of the complimentary.
Well, hell of a way to start the season, brother. Hell of a way.
Just, man, listen, I don't know, man.
Hey, if we give them all our good juju, maybe they actually will be bad.
No, listen,
that's not going to happen.
40 hoodies up, third eye activated, Tyler. I'm just doing this so that the expectations, when they fail, it's just like falling down. It's the old classic cartoons where the piano falls on the pavement. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I want. Sneak operator over here. Okay, we are moving on to 2 point, Tyler. You do not know the 2 point game that I am going with. I do not know the 2 point game that you are going with. I do want to emphasize this week's 2 point is so much fun because we have games on Thursday to pick from. We have games on Friday to pick from. We have games on Saturday to pick from. We have games on Sunday to pick from. And we have a game on Monday to pick from. We got college football for 5 straight days, Tyler.
Greatest weekend of the year.
Greatest weekend of the year. Shout out Labor Day. And as a wrestling fan, I get AEW's pay-per-view on Sunday as well. Come on. Labor Day weekend's the best. Oh, I love it. Anyway, there are a lot of options for me for 2 point this week. I know there's a lot of quote unquote cupcake games going on. I thought about keeping it local. I thought about keeping it with me. I thought about going UCF over Kent State, but I thought that was too easy. I didn't want to do that. That's a 7:00 kickoff on Thursday, FS1. I'm probably going to be going out on Thursday somewhere with my friends so that I can watch the Florida and UCF at the same time because my UCF friends, and then I'm a Gator, and I'm like, listen, boys, we can hang out at someone's house and flip the channels, or we can be real men and go to a bar and watch both. What do you want to do? So we're probably going to do that. Nebraska, Minnesota on Thursday night, 8:00 kick on
That's a
Fox.
good one.
That looks like
I'm
a fun
very
one.
interested in that one.
Louisville, Georgia Tech on Friday night, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. That looks like a fun one. ECU, Michigan looks like a fun one in my opinion. It's on NBC and Peacock. Our streaming overlords have decided to come in. Texas Tech, Wyoming is a 7:30 Eastern kick on CBS. I think that's fantastic.
I did not see that game. That's a good game.
Old Dominion traveling to Blacksburg to take on Virginia Tech, 8:00 kickoff on the ACC network. Sergio, why is that an important game? Glad you asked, listener. Because last year, Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech at home, and this is the return leg of that game, of that series. So that's going to be a fun one. Tyler, we got Coastal Carolina heading to LA, 10:30 kickoff Eastern on ESPN.
In my own backyard.
The Chanticleers in the Rose Bowl. That sounds like fun. You got the Nerd Bowl over here on Sunday, noon kickoff, CBS. Northwestern taking on Rutgers. Oregon State taking on San Jose State, 3:30 right after on CBS. What a great Sunday. Northwestern, Rutgers at noon. Oregon State, San Jose State at 3:30, and then LSU, FSU 7:30. That sounds like fun. Oh, before the NFL comes in and ruins everything. Can't wait.
Ruin. I don't know about you. I for the first time ever love the NFL this season.
I mean, no. You love the Jacksonville Jaguars, like I love the Miami.
Are there other teams?
Didn't know.
I was unaware.
And then on Monday night, on September 4th, Clemson taking on Duke at 8:00 on ESPN. But I'm not picking any of those games, Tyler.
Really?
I am staying true to my South Florida roots here. I'm going to throw this team a bone. And if they mess this up, I'm going to be really agitated. But it's the Miami Bowl, Tyler. Miami of Ohio is coming down to South Florida to take on the Miami Hurricanes at 7:00 Eastern on the ACC network Friday night. And I'll be taking the Miami Hurricanes to defend the home turf. I'm going to be nice. I can't believe I picked Florida State and Miami on the same podcast. I'm telling you, reverse juju. Okay. Reverse juju. I'm taking the Miami Bowl. I'll take the Hurricanes. Listen, Miami Hurricanes. If you lose the Miami Bowl at home on a weekend where a hurricane is going through the state, we might have to fold the university. We might have to shut down the entire University of Miami. Goodbye to the medical school. Goodbye to the law school. It might have to be a wrap. It might be curtains for you. Just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, just Tyler, put it out there.
What's your 2 point this week?
My 2 point. I am going to go over a game that you mentioned. There's so many good games this week. I don't think you mentioned West Virginia, Penn State. Which
I didn't even mention, and that made our short list for the 5 wide.
But I am going to go with one of the worst games on that list. And I'm going to go with, so people forget this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we talked about it too much. Northwestern had a coaching change.
Oh my, yeah, we didn't even mention that.
We did not talk about it. A coaching change that definitely needed to happen.
Definitely needs to happen.
I want to be very clear about how we feel about this.
Definitely the sideline judgment position is that it needed to happen.
That
we trust independent journalism and student journalism.
Oh yeah.
Just want to point that out.
Always supporting student journalism.
Absolutely.
The people who broke that story, those are good people.
Yes.
But Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald no longer the coach after, I don't know, like my entire life. And they're playing Rutgers. And Northwestern's head coach is David Braun.
Who?
David Braun. He's been named interim head football coach. He is a 2-time national champion defensive coordinator, or so I am told.
Or so what teams?
I'm trying to find that out actually.
Well, he's
I said that and I'm like, I gotta back that up. Like
he's taken on Rutgers. Greg Schiano is the coach.
I should clarify. Braun he was the defensive coordinator. He came to Evanston January 2023 as the defensive coordinator after working in the same role at Division I FCS powerhouse North Dakota State for 4 seasons, leading the Bison to 2 FCS national championships. Okay. Nice try, Northwestern athletic department website.
But I will say though, we do respect the Bisons here. We do respect the FCS playoffs, and it's difficult.
Yes.
But it was a little misleading what you said. I'm not gonna lie, Tyler. I'm thinking he was on staff at Bama for something.
So was I. I was just like, man, this man was on is like a Georgia defensive mind. Oh shoot.
I'm just wondering how he was defensive coordinator for 2 national title teams and he ended up in Northwestern. I was wondering what happened on that downfall, but alas, this is a step up for him. Which is good.
He is their interim head coach. Greg Schiano is the head coach at Rutgers. Been doing okay for what Rutgers is.
They're doing great for what Rutgers is.
Yeah, they're doing great.
I'm making a bowl game.
I'm taking the Rutgers Scarlet Knights to beat the Northwestern Wildcats in the first game of the 2023 season.
Can I just say, Tyler?
Yeah.
Our 2-point selections this week are the most sickos selections I think I've
really
ever seen.
Started off hot.
The Miami Bowl and then Rutgers over Northwestern. Just incredible sicko content over here. The Sickos committee should be proud.
Nah, I don't. Yeah, they should sponsor us.
They should sponsor.
Yeah, I was like, it's a bit out of left field for me, but I believe
we are right now. We're like the little kid in the candy store, and our eyes are kind of getting a little too big for what our stomachs can handle. And we were like, you know what? 2-point, forget it. Miami Bowl and a Rutgers win over Northwestern. Let's do this. Oh, okay, that wraps up 5 wide and 2-point. To recap, we have Colorado taking on TCU. It's a noon kickoff on Fox. This is a Saturday game. Tyler and I both have the number 17th ranked TCU Horned Frogs. Boise State taking on the number 10 ranked Washington Huskies. 3:30 Eastern kick on ABC. We both have our beloved Washington Huskies and our Heisman front runner quarterback Michael Penix Jr. is who we got on that one. Next up, we have UTSA taking on Houston. It's a 7 o'clock Eastern kick on FS1. We both have Meep, the Roadrunners in that one. The number 21 ranked North Carolina Tar Heels are taking on South Carolina. It is a 7:30 Eastern kick on ABC, and that is a neutral site game held at Bank of America Stadium, home of the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte, North Carolina. Tyler and I are both maintaining our Southeastern Conference allegiance and taking the Gamecocks here. And the last game on 5 wide is a Sunday night 7:30 Eastern kickoff on ABC, where perennial Florida foes LSU, ranked number 5 in the country, are taking on Florida State, who are ranked number 8 in the country. Tyler has the LSU Tigers, and I have the Florida State Seminoles. And for our 2-point conversion games this week, we have the Miami Hurricanes beating the Miami of Ohio Red Hawks. There we go. Red Hawks. That is my 2-point of the week. 7 o'clock Eastern kick on the ACC network on Friday night. And Tyler's 2-point this week is Rutgers over Northwestern. That's a noon Eastern kickoff on Sunday on CBS. Tyler, before we sign off, let's approach Florida Corner. Let's put our fandom on.
I don't want to.
Yes, you do. You definitely want to. Our beloved Florida Gators are taking on the number 14 ranked Utah Utes. It is an 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff on ESPN. It is Thursday, August 31st is when that game is taking place. Okay, so there's news that we don't know if Cam Rising is going to be playing in this game. The legendary, already Colt status Utah quarterback. Apparently he's been dealing with some injuries and such. Florida released their depth chart. It is confirmed Graham Mertz is the starter. Jack Miller is the backup. Listen, man, what are you looking for from this game? I think we both think that they're going to lose, but we don't think that it's this like foregone conclusion. I think here. You ready for this? You're gonna be proud of me for this one. There is a multiverse a la Spider-Man where the Gators win this football game. In that multiverse, Tyler, what needs to happen?
I think.
Are you proud of me for this?
I am proud of you. I'm very proud of you. This was a big stretch for you, and
I'm very proud.
You nailed it.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Just happy about
I love
that.
you.
Love you.
I do think it's in the realm. I really do think it's in the realm of possibility. I think what needs to be the case is that Florida's defense needs to have massively improved. With that, there is going to be some luck factor. Cam Rising not playing will be big.
And that's not confirmed. So Cam Rising may or may not play. We don't know. Nothing has been said. It's kind of been up in the air, but it's looking like he's not going to be playing given the fact that we're at the time of recording literally 48 hours away from the game and we don't know. So we'll see.
Yes. So So with that, it's like a lot of it to me is about the defense. It's about can the defense step up from last year, uh, and Utah offense not going to be as big as it was last year if Cam Rising's not in it, because they could move the ball. They weren't super high and mighty explosive, but they could really move the ball. Florida's, I'm not really expecting much of the passing game even in this game. I really am not. But if the running game remains as potent as it was last year, even though Graham Mertz is not really a running threat, but if the O-line remains solid, we know there's talent at running back. If this is going to be a 3 yards cloud of dust team to start, in my opinion. If Ricky Pearsall can get a couple good catches in, I do think, I don't think there's a world where Florida blows out Utah. I just don't think that it really exists.
No,
but
not at all.
I do think Florida can win. I think Florida can win this game, but a lot of it has to do with how Utah, like what the Utah situation is.
Yeah.
And if, like we are hoping and believing in, Florida's defense will be much better this season.
Yes, I'm a firm believer that it will be. I really do think it will be. But offensively, listen, Graham Mertz, listen, buddy, you are there to hand the ball off to Montrell Johnson or Trevor Etienne. Okay, that's it. That's your job this year. Maybe Ricky Pearsall on a sweep, maybe, but that is your job this year, my friend. Thank you so much. We needed someone to be in there and an adult in the room, and I know you are, but that's all I want from you. Okay, run this football. Use the good offensive line we have. Use the two-headed monster that we have at running back between Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne. Let's do that. That, for me, is the pathway to success this season. The wide receivers that we've kind of brought in, I'm hoping that they're going to kind of develop so that next year we can have an offense.
It's worth noting that last
year... A multi-dimensional offense, I should say.
It is worth noting that last season, if you look back on it, Florida's wide receiver core was not good.
No.
It was not good. And I think that gets forgotten because Ricky Pearsall was good, and Anthony Richardson at times made up for a lot of that. And also, I think, explains a lot of his struggles. I mean, there are struggles that are his own. But when you look back and you're like, wow, the wide receiver room was not good. If it improves a little bit with the players that we have this year, that could be a good situation. Yeah. So I do really think it's possible. I think Florida has more of a chance than people are giving them.
Agreed.
I really do. I don't know
Agreed.
why, but I'm feeling optimistic about this season in relation to expectations around from other Florida fans. Like my dad fully has been like, yeah, I'm gonna watch, but my focus is on the Jaguars this season.
That's been the conversations that I've had with Florida fans all off season. It's just, yeah, no, I'm gonna keep an eye on it, but like, I'm not going to try to invest myself emotionally because I don't want to get that hurt. You know what I mean? It's been a lot of just like, all right, I guess I'll watch. Let's hope that they kind of prove me wrong. But listen, fan is short for fanatic, and it's not just the people that call for people's coaches' heads way too early, but it's also people like us who maybe are a bit too patient and a bit too much in that waiting game. But no, listen, I truly believe that Florida has a chance for this game, like you said, but I think if I'm going to officially pick, I'm going to go with Utah because I also think that outside of Cam Rising, like, hey, Tyler, did you know that they're the defending Pac-12 champions? Are you aware that they have had a really good season last year?
It's on my radar.
It's on your radar. It's approved. It's approaching
on my
there.
radar.
But yeah, this is a good football team.
Florida beat them last year, so it's possible.
And that's the thing.
I think a thing with me that's just like, oh, Utah, Florida beat Utah last year, even when Florida wasn't very good, and Utah was. Right. And this is not an SEC Pac-12 situation thing that I'm thinking of here. But it's like every game of football, situational and everything like that. But a big part of that was their quarterback. And to start your season thinking you'll have one quarterback and then at the last minute not having them, I think gives Florida an advantage.
I agree.
But we'll find out.
We will find out, and we will also do our very, very best to not overhype ourselves if we do get this win, as we did last year. I want every Florida fan out there to remember that. But yeah, man, listen, if you don't think that, at least I know I speak for Tyler when I say this, but if you don't think that we are being 100% objective here, we truly do take our fan glasses off when we talk about the Florida Gators, I just
Yeah,
picked both Florida
especially
State.
like things like the black uniforms and whatnot, which we still haven't talked about.
Well, we don't have to talk about that until we absolutely have to talk about that, which by the looks of it is the week of the Missouri game. That's when we'll be talking about
Arkansas
those
game,
uniforms.
Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Yeah.
I think that's earlier in the season, so we should get it out of the way that earlier. That's good. If you don't think that I'm being unbiased, ladies and gentlemen, I just picked Florida State and Miami in the same week, objectively, saying, I need them to win.
I don't know, man.
So we're being honest here as much as we can. Let's hope that this team turns it around. That has been Florida Corner. Hopefully one day Florida Corner is brought to you by a sponsor. But as of right now, it's brought to you just from Tyler and I in our different locations is not Gainesville. Tyler, anything else that you want to say before we wrap up this show?
I think I've said this for like 2 previous episodes, but it's just so good to have college football back. It's so funny. I feel like I can feel a part of my personality is waking up and recording this podcast, and it's about to become like a huge part of who I am.
Yes.
And that I am so excited for. And
it's
I'm
a routine, man.
We've had a lot of our fantasy football drafts. I'm very excited for I just love college football, and it's such an interesting college football season because it's the last season that it's going to be a certain way for a lot of conferences, as we previously discussed.
A lot of fan bases are going to have traditions change. There's going to be a lot of change coming up there. So let's enjoy this season. You know, we were very doom and gloom and existential and what we don't like about the changes. Let's just put that to the side, Tyler, for the next 3-4 months. Let's just focus on the ball. Let's just love what we do here and talk college football. Let's focus on
the players and on the fun stuff happening on the teams.
Yes.
Let's do it. I'm so
excited.
excited.
Can I ask you one last question, non-college football related? I have a fantasy draft on Friday.
Okay.
Completely traditional draft, normal full teams. And then we obviously have our Dynasty League draft on Monday, which is for like rookies and stuff. I'm not going to ask you about that because we are competing in that one, and I know that there's certain rookies that you have your eye on and certain rookies I have my eye on.
Hey, all I'm saying, baby, is that I pulled the plug on Alvin Kamara, so I got my first round pick back.
You're talking to someone who's got his first 3 round picks, baby. Listen, and for those who don't know, this is a very complicated league. We love it. There's a whole system as to your keepers. It depends on how long you held them, what round you draft. It's more complex than it needs to be, but it's what makes it so much fun. We love that about it. Who should I take? Not one overall. I don't know what pick I have yet on Friday, but
in your first round,
who should I be targeting? Who should I be like keeping my eyes open for?
Well, like, is it a league that? Okay, traditional league, so
half point PPR.
Running backs, wide receivers are going to be
2-2, 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex, a tight end, and a kicker, and a defense. And only 4 bench spots.
So it's so funny because I have like picked, I think, in both my other leagues, like 13th out of 14. Like
this is a 12-teamer.
Okay.
12-teamer. I think last year I had like the 8th pick. And I think it worked out for me, but I think I'm shooting more for the middle this year.
What I would say is that this year, at least to me, I would prioritize running back because there are not a lot of traditional fantasy bell cow running backs like out there that you should.
You think
I draft high? Like,
should I pull the plug early on Jahmyr Gibbs? Like, is he worth a first round pick?
That's really tough.
An unproved, you know what I mean?
It's a real stretch. It's a real stretch. Like,
and this is different than our dynasty league. Obviously, he's going to be valued more in our dynasty league because he's a rookie and the whole thing, whatever. But in a traditional league, like,
well, they lost Jamal Williams, and I mean, I honestly would prioritize Jamal Williams because Alvin Kamara is suspended for 6 games, and
that's true.
But the Lions probably are going to use the ball, run the ball a lot. I'm biased. I would say you should also prioritize Travis Etienne.
I will be. He will be one of my.
I think Jahmyr Gibbs. I'd take the swing on it. I think.
Okay.
Like from my experience drafting in these things, it's just there are not that many running backs available.
Yeah. And just the way football's been going too.
It's one, the way football's been going, and it's 2, it's the way that this year is with like Kamara's suspended.
Yeah.
Like Christian McCaffrey's obviously a big one now. I still don't trust Saquon Barkley, but that's like a me thing. But beyond that, like, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's on the Patriots now. Like, a lot of the big ones, like Breece Hall would be a great one to get off the Jets, but Breece Hall is coming off an injury, and it's everything's running back by a bell cow. So like I think if you can get a good one, prioritize that, and then go wide receivers, because then like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have been typically way down the line because we don't know about their quarterback situation.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I know that Kyle Trask is going to take the reins and lead them to the promised land, but the rest of the world doesn't seem to understand that.
That's true. That's true. All righty. Well, thank you so much for that. I just didn't know if I should go running back or wide receiver, and I appreciate you pointing.
I've done two. I've done two so far, and I think running back is a thing to prioritize.
Yeah. Okay. Good call. Good call. I appreciate it. I'm only doing 2 leagues this year. I went down from 4 last year. Yeah. My grad school league kind of fizzled out. There were like 6 of us that were like, hey man, this is like my 4th league. Like, and it's like the most recent. So it's like, hey man, sorry. Like I'm cutting off or whatever. And then my work league, I pulled out of my work league one. So just cause I just didn't want to.
Yeah. I've got my old roommates. I got my old college roommates, our dynasty league, my like family, like back home in Jacksonville league, and then my high school friends league.
Yeah.
Which I love.
But those are 4 leagues that you care about. Like, yeah. Those are going to be your 4 forever.
I love my high school league, but one of my friends keeps trying to do this thing, and you may actually appreciate this. Every year, and he finally succeeded this year. He tries to do this try to figure out a new system to do like betting with the money, like a new way to do payouts. And I'm sitting there being like, he's like, what if we all paid more money, we could all do this? And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Listen. A PSA to every commissioner out, every fantasy football player. This is the only way that you need to structure your payout system. The third place
gets their money back.
Gets their money back. Second place gets double what the buy-in is. So if your buy-in is $20, then your payout is $40 for the second place. And then the winner of the league gets everything else. That way you incentivize winning the league is a much bigger difference than just coming in second. But it also puts a bit of stakes on the third place game, because if you win the third place, you get your money back, so at least, so maybe 20, 25, 30, $40, whatever. But, at least you feel like you won something and were able to get there. That is the way you do fantasy payouts. That's it. Yeah. I don't want to hear anything else. And then second place deserves double their payout, their buy-in, because they made it to the championship game. You know what I mean? But there's enough of a difference between second and first where you value winning the league. You know what I mean?
So that's my thing where I voted against it, but I think I've got overruled. But it was like we added an extra $15 to every person's tally, and it's like every week the person who scored the most points that week gets like $15 or something like that.
Okay.
He's like, to incentivize week to week, and I was like, okay, but like I already do care, and
I don't know.
Like you don't need, like, I'm trying to win the whole thing. I'm going to. It doesn't matter.
My favorite thing is that the 2 leagues I'm in now, like my league with my friends, like my high school, college friends. There's no buy-in, but there is a trophy that we hand out and we pass around. And then in our dynasty league, there's a buy-in and there's also a trophy. So like for me, it's like I'm always playing for something, So
yeah.
All right, Tyler. We've
as someone who's held the trophy for a amount of time, it's worth it.
All right, I get it. Okay, I get it.
I won one time, and I'm still coasting off of that.
It's okay. I'm just waiting for Tua to hand me the Lombardi. That's all good. We'll be good.
Sure.
Next week we'll be back. We'll be recapping all that happened in week 1 of the college football season, and we'll be previewing what happened in week 2 of the college football season. Tyler, this has been another episode of Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And we are not biased, Tyler. And I'm very glad that we can say this on a game week.
Oh, yeah.
But go Gators.
Go Gators. Let's go.